The Young Turks and Kasparian's comments were not at all anti-trans, and I'm a little confused and disappointed, and I think you've lost the plot if you think so. First of all, what did she say in her tweet? She said she wants to be referred to as a woman and not a birthing person or a person who menstruates or a person with a uterus or some such thing like that. And then I read that, people are saying that that's trans exclusionary language to not want to use those terms. I thought the goal was to call trans women women, not to further divide cis women. That's all that does there, because not all cis women have uteruses. Not all cis women menstruate. In fact, all of them will not at some point and haven't at some point. They can't all give birth. So I don't get what the purpose of that language is anyway, other than to be completely clinical. If it's not in a clinical setting, I don't get the purpose of that language. I am fine with calling a trans woman a woman. I don't even need to call them a trans woman. I will just call them a woman. Unless it's absolutely relevant to what I'm saying. Why would I don't need to identify you as trans. I'm fine with calling you a woman. If you want to be identified as trans, I'll call you trans. But for a woman to not want to be referred to as anything other than a woman is in no way anti-trans. Now I'm going to need to explain to you the conclusions that I came up with a long time ago, long before this whole before trans was like this thing, long before that, and back before we called things woke, and back when they were called PC, because a woke is just some nonsense evolution of PC and political correctness. And what we're talking about here is a term. So we're talking about political correctness here. That's what we're talking about. I decided a lot of things a long time ago about this, because I would hear people say, they're going too far. PC has gone too far. This is going too far. And that caused me to stop and have to think about, what's too far? That idea didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel right. So I had to stop and think about, what is PC? And I came up with a very simple understanding, definition, and conclusion as to what PC is. It's simply showing respect for other people in the context of living in a free society. That's all it is. Meaning understanding that you cannot be free in a free society unless you respect the freedoms of others. And you have to respect the freedoms of others for that to work. You can't, otherwise your society isn't free. Your freedom is dependent on their freedom. And that means that if you want to live in a free society, you have to deal with things that are going to make you uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes you're not going to like stuff, but it's still a free society and you still have to allow it, right? Otherwise you're not free. If they're not free, you're not free. It's a simple conclusion. These days, it seems like a lot of Americans seem to interpret freedom, a free society or freedom, as everything needs to be my way. And that is just nonsense. That's not how it works. If you're not exercising restraint, if you're not sometimes bothered, then you're not doing it right. The concept of living in a free society, it takes a certain level of maturity. It takes restraint. It takes understanding. It takes knowing that your freedom is dependent. So one of the first things that made me even have to think about this topic at all, when people would say it's going too far, was something I read about. I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember what the context was or who or where or why or what have you. All I remember is that it was about Halloween costumes. And somehow someone put forth the guidance that only Native American girls can be Pocahontas for Halloween. And that struck me. As like, that's crazy. Meaning, if a little girl wants to be Pocahontas for Halloween, it's because she thinks she digs Pocahontas. She thinks she's cool. And how many Native American little girls do you think want to be Pocahontas for Halloween? So it seemed to me that the loser there is Pocahontas. And it's a prime example of this too far thing. And what happens when you go too far is you lose moderates. The thing is that it's not too far, because that is not PC. PC is showing respect for other people and their rights in a free society. That's what PC is. That is telling little girls that they can't be Pocahontas for Halloween unless they're Native American. Is not doing that. That's not what that is. So in the end, my conclusion became PC is, you can't go too far with showing respect for other people in a free society. But what it means is things like you have every right to be referred to how you want to be referred to be called what you want to be called. You do not have a right to tell other people that they have to be called something else. It's that simple. So telling a woman she can't be called a woman, that's not anti-trans. That's pro-freedom. That's PC. Okay? I don't even see why dividing trans women from cis women and then cis women from cis women is a good idea. It makes no sense. I remember seeing a video years ago from Ben Shapiro where people were passing it around talking about how it was some sort of an own on the trans community, where he said, how dare you tell me I have to relearn something and call you a different gender than what I know you to be. And my thought was, what are you telling us, Ben Shapiro, that you're learning impaired? You can't learn something new when somebody says, I mean, don't you know people that have changed their first name before? I know I have. Haven't we all? I've known several people that have changed their first name. You have to get used to it. You have to learn to call them the new name. You might mess up accidentally every once in a while because it's habit. You learn and you figure it out and you call them the new name as they want to be called. You can't do that, Ben Shapiro? So you're learning impaired is what you're saying. You can't learn new things. I mean, that's all that means. So to say Anna Kasparian is anti-trans because she wants to be called a woman, that's just Looney Tunes. That's Looney Tunes. I want to be called a woman. I'll call you a woman. You want to be called a woman? I'll call you a woman. You want to be called a trans woman? I'll call you a trans woman. What's the problem? Saying that is anti-trans is ludicrous. What that really is a self-own, because somebody who is truly not prejudicial, who is truly... Okay, that was my 5-year-old daughter just interrupted there. As I was saying, I think this is what I was saying, that it's a self-own to say that it's somehow prejudicial against trans people to want to be called a woman. No, it's because you're not caring about, you're not thinking about trans women as something very, very different. They're women. Why can't we just call trans women women and women women and just be done with it? Why do we have to talk about all this birthing persons? Are we talking about trans men? Are we talking about men with uteruses? Well, why do we need to change the language that we use and use more divisive language for cis women versus trans women versus trans men who have uteruses? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. To say, let Anna be called what Anna wants to be called. I also want to be called a woman. I don't want to be called a menstruator or a person with a uterus or any of that freaking crap. I'm proud to be a woman. And I am open arms accepting of any trans woman, that whatever you want me to call you. And I'm accepting of you as a woman completely.